let's begin our discussion of algebra by talking about the place values of numbers. Now, I'm sure this is something you remember from previous math lessons, but it's good to just go over it so we can familiarize ourselves with the place values and what they're called. I started from the far right on my chart with the number 9, which is actually in the ones place. And then I want to go to the next place value, which would be the tens place. Our 8 is in the tens place, and our 7, if we keep going to the left, is in the hundreds place. Now, as we add places, our numbers get bigger and we add places to the left, you'll note that every 3 numbers is separated by a comma. And this is a pattern that keeps on going so that we group our numbers in sets of 3 just so that we can read them. After the hundreds, of course, we run into the thousands place, then the 10,000s and the 100,000s, and then we start a whole new set of numbers when we see the millions, and then of course 10 millions, 100 millions. That's as far as we're going to discuss right now. Now what I want you to do is to look at example 1, the number 905, and tell me what place value does that 5 represent. In other words, is it 5 hundreds, 5 ones, 5 tens, 5 thousands? Where is the 5 in our chart? As you can see, it's really in the 5 ones position, so the 5 there just represents 5 ones, or the number 5. Example 2, the 5 here is in the hundreds place. So what number does it represent? It represents 500. And in example 3, as you can see on our chart, you'll note the number 5 is really in the 10,000s place. We see that, so our number 5 represents 50,000. That would be 5 10,000s, right? So 50,000s. Now, how do you figure this out, or how do you write it down? Well, you really just write the significant number down, the one you're asked to find, and then you fill in the other place values that are to the right with zeros and commas if you need them. Now let's write the following whole numbers. Let's see if we can do it in words. I know you don't write checks anymore because everything is paid online, but if you were, you would be filling in the numbers on the check that we write. We would have to write it in a word form too. 316, for example, would be written 316. Now, you note that I didn't put an and in here, and that's because and doesn't belong in whole numbers. When we have an and, it usually means that we have a decimal, and we have, or a part of a number. We would say, if we're writing a check, we would say $316.50. If you don't have that decimal portion, you don't include the word and. Example number 5 has the number 42. And we would write it like that. We would say 42, and then we'll say the number that the 2 stays in. Which place value is it? So here we have 42,000. And we would say 42,000, comma, 9. In other words, it's 42,009 ones. And we don't have to put anything in between. Those zeros don't represent any significant numbers. The only ones that we've had to list are the ones that have actual significant numbers, numbers bigger than 0 in them. Now, that was our writing whole numbers in words. Let's turn around and write these words in standard form. So in standard form would be actually writing the numeric numbers with the commas if necessary. The first one is 59,800. As we can see, they've helped us out in the words by putting a comma where we really need it. 59,800 would be represented with these digits. Next, example 7. 7 million, that's a significant digit, and then it would be followed by a comma. Look at your chart, your place value chart at the top of this page if you have any questions. 7,017,000. Now, I only need digits in the tens and ones place for the number 17. So everything in between, I'm going to need to fill in with zeros. So all of my thousands place values would be zeros, my hundreds would be zeros, and I would only need a 1 and a 7 in the tens and ones place. And that would be the number 7,017,000. So what are we talking about when we talk about something called expanded form? We know what standard form is, and we know what words are, but expanded form means that we write down the value of each digit and we put a plus between them. So the 7, for example, represents 700, and I'm going to put plus to show that the 8, I would add to that, it represents 80, 8 tens, right? And the 9 represents 9 ones. Now I've written this number 789 in what we call expanded form. Let's take number 9 and see if we can write down the numbers, the digits in expanded form. The 2 is really in the 10,000s place, so it would represent 20,000. The next 2 is in the hundreds place. It represents 200. The 1 is in the tens place. It represents 10. And the 5 is in the ones place. It represents the number 5. Expanded notation or expanded form just takes every significant digit, and a significant digit is higher than the number higher than 0, and writes it out with all of it in its correct place value.